Let's translate something a little different. A recipe. This is from a site we saw before, Vegalosi. I've picked a random cake recipe here and I'm not going to translate it word for word. That's for you to do yourself if you want, but I'm going to go through the basic details and get the sense of it. Honestly, apart from some of the ingredients and equipment, this is not a difficult translation. There are plenty of words you can guess from English, and no doubt other Romance languages. So if you're learning Italian, I suggest you give something like this a try. So, plum cake marmorizzato vegan al cioccolato e vaniglia. Why is it called a plum cake? There are no plums in it, so it's definitely not that. Google interlude. I looked this up and found a whole article about why Italians call them plum cakes. I'll link it below if you're interested. They are just loaf cakes or pound cakes. You'll notice that it says this is perfect for colazione, so breakfast. Italians are known for eating very sweet breakfasts, and I think this definitely fits the bill. The recipe calls for a plum cake tin too later on, which is basically a loaf tin. Marmorizzato is marbled, which you should be able to guess from the image, and I'm sure you can determine what cioccolato and vaniglia are. It takes 60 minutes cooking time, 15 minutes prep time, and makes 8 portions. That's pretty standard recipe formatting, so once again, that shouldn't be difficult to work out. Now, the ingredients are where you do have to be certain you've got things right, and therefore will likely need to look things up. So let's see what we have. 240 grams of zero-grade flour. Hopefully you knew the word for flour. Now in the UK we don't really use this grading of flour, certainly in regular stores. We have plain or self-raising. So what would we use? Google interlude. I found the answer on Nigella Lawson's site. The nearest UK equivalent is good old plain flour. 25 grams of amido di mais, which translates as cornstarch, which after another search seems to be the equivalent of corn flour in the UK, not corn flour elsewhere to my reading of it. 8 grams of, well, I think it's pretty obvious that's cream of tartar, even though I haven't seen it before. 200 grams of zucchero di canna, which is translated by the great Google as brown sugar rather than cane sugar, which I suspect is the true translation. I know they aren't the same thing, but can be used interchangeably. 120 grams of margarine, 120 grams of silken tofu, 40 grams of sunflower oil. Did you know the word for sunflower? 200 grams of soya milk, 30 grams of cocoa, 60 grams of water, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You should have noticed apple within that. A pinch of vanilla powder and a pinch of salt. And that's it. Now let's look at how to make this cake. So first, if you didn't already know, mescolare, it's easy enough to guess. Mix the cocoa with hot water to make a composto omogeneo. Now, homogeneous compost, you might think, what the heck's that? If you don't know the word homogeneous, you're probably a little stumped. But it's just to be mixed well into a paste. Put that to one side. Next, put the flour in a bowl with the cornflour, sugar, cream of tartar, vanilla and salt, and mix that well too. So, frullatore is a mixer. Interestingly, I've actually seen this word in a book since preparing this video, and remembered it, so that was good. You have to pour the tofu, soya milk, apple cider vinegar in there and blend till smooth. Now it says to use a bain-marie, hopefully you could guess that, to melt the margarine. Then add the sunflower oil before putting that mixture into the dry ingredients. Mix the fats together well with the dried ingredients, and then add the wet ingredients, which is the tofu, soya milk and vinegar mixture. I think most of this last bit is pretty easy, given we've already seen some of the language mentioned. And amalgamate is another easy guess. Split the mixture into 2 bowls. Then add the cocoa paste to one of the bowls and mix to perfection. That's one way to vary the language, because we've been mixing well a lot. Line the tin. Vestito should give you a clue there, with carta forno, which is what we call in the UK greaseproof paper, but I think elsewhere you might call it a baking sheet or parchment paper. And now we're doing maths. I'm only joking, but this attention to detail is clearly one of the reasons Italians are famed for their cooking. So pour 1/3 of the non-cocoa mixture into the bottom of the tin, then 1/3 of the cocoa mixture, and repeat twice more. Then use something pointy to run through the mixture a couple of times to create the marbling. Do you know what the pointy things mentioned are? And finally, put into a 180 degrees centigrade oven for 60 minutes, or until cooked. Once cooked, let it intiepidire, which, if you look at it, seems a little like tepid, which should give you a clue. Cool. And I finally worked out what a gratella per dolci is, because Google, seriously, a sweet grate means nothing to me. Does anyone call them that? Anyway, put it onto a cooling rack to cool completely. This recipe might not particularly appeal to you to actually make. It is quite fiddly, but that wasn't the point of translating it. That was to learn a little about baking terminology. However, you might want to find a recipe you do want to cook on this or another site, and try translating that. It's always better when language learning exercises can be paired with a real-life activity, don't you think?